In order to watch this video, I must find you worthy. You have to go on a quest and find a thing that will lead you to another thing and lead you to that thing, and then maybe you will be worthy of watching this video. Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Discovery Season 5 Episode 3, Jinaal. Spoiler warning for this video. If you have not seen this latest episode of Discovery, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, Discovery goes back to Trill. Now, it has been a while, like years, since I've seen Season 3 and 4. I hadn't seen them since they aired, so I wasn't that I couldn't remember exactly what they've done on Trill before, but I know they've been there, and I know Gray went there to study to be a guardian. Anywho, it was interesting to get that return, and so we get Adira reunited with Gray, and they break up. And I found that a little disappointing, to be honest. Like, this was a nice, interesting couple, queer representation on Star Trek, and to break them up, it seems kind of sad, but who knows? I mean, they're remaining friends, so they'll remain friends, and they'll maybe get back together. But it just seemed like that's too natural that they split up and do a long distance relationship, and of course they drift apart. Like, I don't know, that's realistic, but it's also kind of typical. It's also kind of boring, and I don't know, I just thought it might have been more interesting had they not split them up. Anywho, we get a couple Deep Space Nine references in this episode, which always makes me happy. It's fine. I'm sorry, DS9 fan. I like when they reference DS9. So the first reference I'll talk about, I'll get to the other one later, but the first one is the Gentara. In fact, I was just watching a video on the DS9 episode Facets, which deals with the Gentara. In fact, this is, I believe, the first time it's been mentioned since that episode. It's the DS9 episode where Dax gets all of her friends, and each host goes into their body temporarily for a short amount of time, and Curzon goes into Odo and doesn't want to come back, but Jadzia talks him into it. And so that was interesting that they and I think Wilson Cruz did a really good job playing a different character. Totally bought it. Totally bought that this was a character who wasn't used to, being alive in his own body and wanted to go out and explore that sort of thing. But I will say, I found the whole quest thing, the him kept saying, kind of lying towards him, saying I have to take you there, and not mentioning there's these wild animals. Of course, there has to be these wild beasts on Trill that I've never heard of these things before, but that's all good. I mean, it doesn't mean they don't exist. But still, of course they have to be there, and of course to make excitement and suspense for the episode. But I didn't really like the way he was like, I have to find you worthy, I have to test you, and you have to be worthy to do this. It just seems like... And I'm not going to tell you, and he could tell them where the thing is. It's like, no, you have to go on the quest and find the clues because we did that on purpose. Would anyone ever do that? This seems like a Mighty Python Holy Grail or Indiana Jones Last Crusade, type thing of, we have to set you on this, or we have to set you on this quest to go on this other quest, or like a King Arthur thing, and on this other test, and you must find yourself worthy. I mean, the original premise of the season, they marked it out. I knew it was going to be them trying to find a thing and leads them to another thing, and I said I was okay with that, and I am okay with that, but just the fact that he's like, no, you have to complete the tests. You must be worthy. I was like, that's kind of dumb. I don't know. It doesn't seem like anyone in real life would actually do that. It seems like that was a huge plot contrivance that was so the episode can happen, or in this case, so the season can happen. Like, like why? Yeah, it's that part of it did annoy me, but something I did really like was the interactions between Michael and Book. I think this continues to be one of the best relationships in Star Trek. I think it was very complex how he asked to go on the away mission, and she was just like, I'll think about it, but then ultimately decided to let him come. And he admits that, he has some things to make up for, and their relationship is a bit wonky at the moment after the events of season 4, and they're still recovering it, but they obviously still care for each other, and so that makes very interesting. It makes for a very interesting dynamic. But back to the quest thingy, when they encounter those like giant moths or whatever the hell they were that can cloak themselves. So the Jinaal was testing them by saying, because they have to be willing to put their weapons away and show and go in peace. But it seemed to me the main reason why they were able to get away and that the creatures let them go was because Book used his special powers, which I never understood, but can communicate with animals apparently, and he uses those powers to let them know that they apologize and they're going to leave. So what if Book wasn't there? And did Jinaal know that Book had those powers? I doubt it. So what if you didn't have those powers? I mean, you might say, oh, well, if they just look non-threatening and put their weapons away, then maybe the things would let them go. But maybe not. I think that test was bullshit. I think they were more likely to die. And I don't know. And just the whole concept of, we have to test you with these things. It seems like, stop being a dick and just give them the fucking clue. Or better yet, just tell them where they can find the whole fucking thing. Or don't. Like, just say that you have to prove yourself worthy by looking at maps and searching for things and unraveling riddles and finding the riddle of the song. And how does that prove that they're worthy to have this weapon that I'm not going to use it to kill people if they can unravel or find out what the rhyme of the song means with it's kind of dumb. I'm sorry, I can't get over that. Just tell them where it fucking is, or tell them not. Like, either say that they can or say that they can't. Like this whole, you have to prove yourself. Anyway. Because, and then I'll get to, this is the other DS9 reference, the Dominion War. He mentions that, we hid this, we didn't give it to the Federation because the Dominion War was going on. That's smart. Not because the Federation or Starfleet can't be trusted, but because Section 31 cannot be trusted with that, and Section 30, if the Federation knows, then Section 31 knows. Now, they haven't, I don't know if they outright stated whether or not Section 31 exists in this century. You would assume not, it's been so long. Some people speculate maybe that's what Kovic is a part of, but and not just Section 31, though. You could say Starfleet. Like, if they were desperate enough, as we've seen in the Pale Moon Light, where Sisko was willing to do all these really shady, crooked things in order to save millions of lives. If millions of lives were at stake, which during the Dominion War kind of were, they could use it for ill. For bad intentions, even the best of the Federation. And Burnham I don't think her insurances that they're so much better now actually hold up. Because, I mean, granted, they're not currently at war, but they keep mentioning the Breen as this growing threat. So they could perhaps, and she even said that, to be fair. She said, like, right now we're at peace, but it could change. But people seem to want to, like, the whole thing in the side plot with Saru was about people wanting star bases and more weapons and garrisons to protect them. So people are building up arms. So it seems like it's not a good time, that they are not peaceful. And the whole thing is, we have to set this aside for another 1,000 years to see if you're peaceful. And they're not. They're not in the middle of the war, but like, and the Federation kind of fell apart. The whole burn thing, like, it was for centuries they didn't even barely exist, and hardly anyone's a member, and they were just starting to rebuild that now, so that all these different worlds don't trust or know each other as well as they used to. So I would actually make the argument that this is less peaceful than the Federation of the 24th century, outside the Dominion War, mind you. Let's say before the Borg invasion, like season 1 and 2 of TNG and early season 3. Like, that era was more peaceful than this era. I'm sorry, I think it was. But anyway, I don't know. I could be wrong. But, but whatever, episode's gonna episode. But as I said, I really like the character interactions between Burnham and Book in this episode, and I like Jinaal. I like Wilson Cruz's performance of Jinaal. I thought that was very powerful as well. We had a couple side plots that I really liked. The Rayner sort of becoming on board, becoming commander, and Burnham ordering him to do a meet and greet with all the crew, and he's being really stuck up dick about the whole thing. He's like, come in and say something in 20 words or less. Okay, you're dismissed. Which is very clearly because I thought I remember Burnham saying that he had to spend 5 minutes with each crew member. And here's the thing. You know who I heard someone mention Lorca as someone Rayner reminded him of. He doesn't actually remind me of Lorca. Do you know who he reminds me of? Captain Jellicoe. Just his attitude in this episode in particular, the way he's like, I don't have time to get to know you or to meet you. We're in the middle of a mission. That's what's important. You tell me about the mission. I'm almost expecting him to say, get it done. Now, if you know my feeling on Captain Jellicoe, you know how much I have a terrible captain I think he is, and I absolutely stand by that, and I don't like him. But Rayner, on the other hand, even though he reminds me a lot of Jellicoe, in this case he's not the captain, he's the first officer, so he will have to report to Burnham, so that makes it a different dynamic. He's not taking over and changing a 4-shift rotation to the 5-shift or whatever, or 3-shift rotation to a 4-shift or whatever the fuck he did. Just fuck up the whole thing just because he wanted to, just so he could exert his power anyway. So he's not doing shit like that because he's not the captain, although he used to be a captain, but as we're seeing him now, he's a first officer, so that's a bit different. But also, he reminded me a bit of Jellicoe in the terms of wanting to just not really care about social interactions and just want to focus on getting the work done. But he doesn't have this petty, desire or need to exert power over others, or at least not to the extent that Jellicoe did. And I actually liked Tilly in this episode. I liked his interactions with Tilly and how, she was like, permission to speak freely, and then said all these things. He's like, I didn't give you permission. And then later in the episode, she's like, I know you didn't give me permission to speak freely, but I'm just going to take it. I actually liked that. I thought that was really funny. And it was a bit silly the way he was like, say thing in 20 words. That's actually 21 words. Like, I think you're doing a bit over the top there. But I was expecting more of a payoff to this storyline too. I was expecting him to, maybe it would have been too like telegraphed or sitcom-y for him to like sit down, have a drink, and actually start to interact with them. Also, I was expecting the Burnham to give him shit about this, of being like, look, I told you to meet with everyone for 5 minutes, not just to blurt out something in 20 seconds or 20 words or less. Yeah, his thing with at the end of the episode with telling Tilly where he was able to do, analyze their characters and know a lot more about them just from their brief statements. And Tilly was correct in responding, well, that's just analyzing them. That's not actually building any connections. Which, again, is why he reminds me of Jellicoe, because Jellicoe wasn't interested in building connections, which is why he sucked as a captain, but Picard and Riker and other people were. So, I don't know. I heard a critique that Rayner was supposed to represent the counter to a lot of, people complaining that Discovery's too emotional or too sentimental. And I totally disagree with that because, for one, I'm one of the people who are saying Discovery's too emotional and too sentimental. Rayner's the other extreme. So there's this happy little thing called the middle, which is where Picard and Riker and Sisko to some extent, Janeway definitely, is where all they sit. Because this is the thing I keep saying about Riker and Picard in comparison to Jellicoe, is that they were very friendly, they were very sociable, but they just didn't push it over the top the way Discovery does, where they cry over every tiny little thing. Not that Discovery always does that. So if Rayner is meant to be a commentary on that, then it's a straw man, because it's just showing the other extreme from being way too sentimental, and then also the other extreme was the guy's an asshole and just wants to do the work done. That middle is where you need to be. Anyway, which is where, most other Star Trek shows were. But anyway, so yeah, getting into the other plot of the episode was Saru and his Vulcan fiance. That was good. This is again another good character. I love the character interactions between them. I love the relationship. As soon as they introduced her aide, you could tell the aide was really stuck up. And one thing I do really want to say about this episode, or the storyline, is not just that it was acted well, which it was. It was acted very well. You can always count on Doug Jones. Always been one of the highlights of the show. But it was written well. Like the way they wrote the Vulcans was so good, because it's hard to portray a lot of dynamic and complexities with Vulcans, characters like Vulcans, because they're, deadpan, straightforward, logical, whatever. And so you have to be creative to create nuance within that. And I think the dialogue and the subtext and everything in the storyline did an amazing job doing that. Because first of all, you had both the Vulcans come off as, on the surface, as being very similar, very stoic, like, oh, that is logical. But the nuances. One was totally more of a dick and uptight, and the other was being a bit more sort of reasonable. And I knew that the uptight dick was going to stir things up, but to be fair to him, he does have a point. He does, and especially he's doing his job, because his job is to be a politician and to look out for her best interests, and so that's what he's trying to do. And so he goes to Saru and is like, I know she won't listen to me, but maybe she'll listen to you. And then Saru he convinces Saru, because, as I said, he has a point. And then Saru tries to, perhaps we should. And by the way, I love the way that Saru and her interact with each other, because he is not a Vulcan, but the way he can be very logical and very straightforward, and that's very much in his character. And it was kind of funny, didn't the other guy referred to him as an emotional filled whatever, but he's actually not that emotional filled for Discovery anyway. So I always loved the interaction between these two, but anyway, Saru was like, maybe perhaps we should delay it, but then she immediately sees through it and knows, hey, it's that other dude, right? He spoke to you, and he's like, yeah, but I think maybe it will help, help protect you. And it's like, what makes you think I need protecting? And then Saru felt bad about it, because he realized that, he overstepped his bounds, and he came and apologized, and it's like, I hope, and she's like, okay, I accept it, and moves on. And she's like, wow, I didn't expect it. I thought you would still be, holding a grudge, still be upset or whatever. And she's like, no, conflict. And he's like, conflict happens. It happens occasionally. It's like it's going to happen with these Vulcan purists. And we just have to deal with the conflict when it comes. And which is logical. and so that was a very satisfying conclusion. And of course it sort of represents it was kind of the message of the whole episode, that you just have to deal with the with the struggle, with the conflict, deal with it as it comes. So I thought that was I thought that was really good. So I really liked that aspect of it. So, my rating for Jinaal, out of 10, I'm going to give this a 7. Very good. I'm seriously considered giving it an 8. I was that close to giving it an 8. In fact, if I did 0.5s, I would give it a 7.5. But I don't. And so I don't think this quite, I don't want to get overzealous and overjoyed. I don't think it quite gets there to an 8, especially considering the contrived quest thing about it. You must answer me these questions 3. I don't know, but I love the character stories in it, and as I said, I think some of the character interactions are written extremely well. I didn't like that Adira and Gray broke up, but maybe they'll take this somewhere interesting. I don't know. I think they kind of utilize Gray overall in the show as a whole, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. So anyway, that is it for my review of Jinaal. So I will be back next week to cover the next episode of Discovery, so be sure to check out my channel for that. And also I will be covering Star Trek Next Generation one episode at a time, currently in season 4, so you can check out my channel for that as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.